Hello, family and friends. Welcome to Thrive Alive. I am your host, Nurse Jazmine, and today we are honoring Black doulas. If you're not aware, it is Black Maternal Health Awareness Week, and we have a lot of fun and exciting content lined up for you. But first, we want to introduce you to some amazing birth workers that work in the Chicagoland area. So, before we get started, we're going to do an icebreaker. So I'll start with you, Imani. I would like for you to introduce yourself, whatever certifications or titles you may hold. And the icebreaker question is, what song would you have on your birth playlist? Number one song.
Oh, man. Okay, my name is Imani. I am the owner of Indigo Rose Birth. I'm a certified lactation specialist, and a lot of my birthing practice is centered in advocacy. And I will say that one song that I have had on my playlist is "Bigger" by Beyonce. It's like you're part of something way bigger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Miss Rosalina.
Hi, I'm Rosalina Rashad. My company name is Gems of Joy Doula Services, and I'm just a lover of music.
Okay.
Period. I'm all over the place stuff.
Well, I'm gonna ask you this: what's your favorite genre of music?
R&B, soul. I like classic jazz. A lot of spiritual songs.
Okay, you like it all, for real.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome. Okay, Miss Kamira.
Yes. Hi, I'm Kamira, and I am the creator of Mama Jamma Dance and Maternal Wellness, where I am a birth and postpartum doula, as well as a pre and postnatal dance instructor. And at this point, one song I would have on my birth playlist is "Calm Down" by Rima.
Okay.
So it get, like the Afrobeat song,
Yeah.
so it gets you going, but it's also the message of like calm down, so get your spirits up, but also again just reminding you to
Stay calm.
stay calm. That's
Nice.
right.
Nice. I love it.
Yeah.
Miss Rachel.
Hi, my name is Rachel. I am a doula, full spectrum. And when I say full spectrum, that means birth and death. And there's a whole complexity behind that. But right now, I don't know. My niece has this thing about watching Jingle Jangle, and so that intro song is literally the main song that is literally on rotation in my house right now. So I think it's called "This Day" off of the soundtrack. So that is the song that is playing for the last 2 weeks.
Over and over in your
Over and
head. Got it. Okay, well, it's so nice to meet you, ladies. I'm so glad that you guys are able to join us today. Looking forward to hopping into some very important questions that need to be answered. So the first question I'm going to ask Imani, can you tell us what is a doula?
I would say that a doula is mainly a support person. Like Rachel was saying, full spectrum, I agree with whether that is birth or death or whatever. I think it's just somebody who helps you navigate transition and can help you to learn more about the transition that you're going through. Someone to help you gain knowledge about what you're going through. Mm-hmm. Also an advocate. Mm-hmm. Which is really, really important, and teaching you also how to advocate for yourself. I'm gonna keep saying that because that's just really important to me. But
that's one of my favorite words.
Yeah,
I'm just being completely honest.
Yeah. I think that a lot of us, or most of us, are non-medical. Some doulas might, also work as nurses or midwives, but I think the fact remains the same, that it's just a person that is alongside you as you go through different journeys of life.
Got it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anybody want to add to that?
I will add that doulas are labor and postpartum doulas are definitely emotional support.
Yeah.
That's the big word we need to use. That we are definitely an emotional support to the wife, the kids, the family, the household, even the in-laws and that visit. So yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I just wanted to start with that because a lot of people don't know or have never heard of a doula. And we're in a phase now where we're trying to bring more light to what doulas do and how they are able to support people. So
Can I add?
absolutely.
There's an analogy that I can't remember where I first heard it, but I thought it was like a good analogy. Doulas are like kind of like your wedding planner of your birth, you know? So like when you're getting married, oftentimes a family will hire a wedding planner, somebody that is experienced in the landscape. They know what to look out for, what may lie ahead, but it's not just them steering the ship. They're helping bring your vision to life,
Yes,
you know?
absolutely.
And so as doulas, that's also what we do, like help a family who may not even know, like, oh, I can have a birth vision for myself. Like they may not even know that. We can help them uncover what that is and then help guide them, you know, through the process, and also constantly turning them back inward, because that's really where the whole thing lies. Like, yes, we're there to support you, but you already have it within, and we're helping you uncover that. So I kind of like the wedding planner of a birth analogy.
I like that. I like that. When you say that, it makes me think about, like you said, your wedding planner is there with you from the start, helping you through the whole, all the way up until that moment. So yeah, I like that. Did you have something?
No, I mean, like we're stewards. We're stewards of the process, and I think that, you know, we can have that conversation about how it's become commodified, but that's a whole nother topic. But we're stewards, and we operate in that space at all times, and I think we need to hold space for that and allow community to see that it's reflective, that this isn't something new, but it's something that we have consistently done over a millennia, and now it has a new name. And it's given a name for work that has consistently happened. Absolutely. And now we're ushering in a new generation where folks are actually seeing the old practices that we formerly operated out of come back into play.
I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Ooh. Okay, I know, right? Okay. Next question. This question is for you, Kamira. You're gonna enjoy answering this, by the way. Okay. Okay. What activities or exercises can pregnant people do to lower their anxiety during pregnancy?
Ooh, that is a good question. Yes. First, before I get to the other one, first thing I'm going to say is breathe, okay? That sounds so simple, but we overlook it, right? Because breathing literally helps regulate your nervous system. And that is like number one. You can be on the bus, you can be at home, it don't matter where you are. You can take a deep breath in and let it go, you know? And then also with that, you can also use visualization and things like that. So that's number one.
Okay, breathe.
Breathe, yes, yes. And even when we notice, like, you know, I notice like, okay, I'm nervous, like, did I breathe yet? You know, so just remembering to breathe is really important. And then also prenatal dance, which I teach. So yes, I am biased, proudly biased towards that. But prenatal dance is another good one, because prenatal dance is, particularly in the way that I teach it, it's less about like getting the steps right. Like we don't really care about that. You know, yeah, we have steps, that's fine, but it's more about like getting in your body, getting reconnected with your body, moving your body in ways that we probably don't move it regularly, allowing ourselves to access different movements that we may want to use during birth and things like that. And then also it's just like, have you ever really seen somebody at a party dancing and stuff and like looking sad? It's like, no, it's just like really, it's a feel good thing. The music is going, you're smiling, like you're just feeling good, you know? So that's another activity that I like.
Awesome. Recommend. I just want to just piggyback on what you said about just movement in general and how we all know that it's good for us, but some people are under the, and not even just people, even like people that work in the hospital and stuff, like sometimes they make you lay in a bed your whole labor. And that may be for, you know, it may be for certain reasons, maybe in distress or something like that. But I just believe that a lot of people are under the misconception that when you're pregnant, you are disabled and you shouldn't be moving around, and you know what I mean? So I love what you do and the fact that you are breaking down that barrier. Like, no, move your body, get comfortable in your body, because when you get ready to do this, you gonna need all the muscles moving in the right place. So yes, thank you for that. This question is for you, Miss Rosalina. How can the father or partner prepare for the delivery room?
I think the father, like she said, need to take some breathing procedures in and out. The doula should be there to calm him down, let him know it's okay. You'll be seeing your baby real soon, and be a smile and encourage him to let him know that everything's fine and that he need to just be in a calming space, because that space should be calming. And he should be, when he's calm, she's calm. So he's like the movement for that whole energy, because a lot of women, the men get nervous and they get on their nerves and they don't want to be bothered and they be pushing them out and get upset. So no, he needs to be calm. He needs to be in a breathing situation where he's breathing in, breathing out, and he just supposed to be a support system just as well as the labor doula is. You know, so the labor doula is there to just scope all the energy and calm everybody down, but be an assistant to the dad, to the mom, to the medical nurses that's there, or whatever they need. I'm right here. So we are actually emotional support in that area too, for the father, for everyone. So yeah, we should just be there to prepare him and to calm him down, and it's just letting him know it's just a beautiful soul that's going to come into this world, and you're going to be looking at your beautiful baby soon and making sure she's happy.
Yes. Two things, Dad. I'm sorry.
I wanted to expand on that because, like, I've had clients, especially with the men. I think when we talk about birth work, men kind of feel, especially if we're talking about cis men, they feel excluded from the labor and delivery process.
Absolutely.
And that's where I feel like as doulas, we have to make space for them in that prenatal part, instead of saying, like, what do you want to see? How do you support, and even supporting your partner before we get there? I recently had a labor and delivery where it was not going as planned. And having him as a sounding board, quite frankly, I got to there and I felt like y'all just had me here for nothing, because he took ownership of, like, this is the space that they're trying to create. They had a conversation about their birthing plan before they walked into those spaces. And so, walk into those spaces. And so when we allow them to feel like they have agency, because again, they got pregnant together. One is just carrying. That allows them to feel like they are welcome to that space.
Absolutely.
Can I add to that too? I think that's a really important point. I also think one of the primary roles that I see from the fathers that I support is they really take on the advocacy piece. So, because again, it's them and their partnership.
Right.
They have a vision and she's doing her thing, and his job is like kind of protector, keeper of the space too. Yes, as doulas, we do that as well, but that's also a big job of his. And to be totally honest with you, it's a different response when it's just mom versus when they see mom has support.
Right.
Whether it's a doula, she got a partner, she got, so it's a different thing. So they really take that on, which means they have to have the confidence and the skills to know how to navigate a space like that, how to advocate without tipping the scale too far unless it's necessary, how to jump in, be hands-on if that's what they want. And also a big piece that I see too, because partners, they have such an important role, but it's also a vulnerable role because they are not used to seeing their loved one in discomfort like that. And it can be really emotionally pulling, and it puts them in a position, depending on the practitioner, where they can be used as a pawn to sway the mom into something that she does not want. So they have to be, the partner has to be grounded, has to be able to, like you said, regulate their own emotions and nervous systems and things like that, and kind of stay the course as long as it makes sense to stay the course, and not be used as a pawn. Exactly. So again, that comes with a lot of education, a lot of them being aware of what the birth plan is. You can't afford to not know what the plan is while you're in there.
Right.
And then having the skills and the tools. And as doulas, we work together real good with partners, like, you know, like, hey, why don't we do this together? Or, you know, making recommendations or whatever it is. But I wanted to add that piece.
That's excellent.
I think that from the jump, there needs to be a conversation about involvement. Like, you are both pregnant. You both need to be engaged in the childbirth education, in all of the conversations that we're having. Like, I would love for both partners to be there and to be involved, like actively engaging in questioning and things like that. Because I think a lot of times when I show up to like my prenatal appointments, I'm directly speaking to the birthing parent. I'm not getting a lot from the other person. And it's easy to kind of just space out, zone out, and be like, oh, well, I'm just there to support. I'm just there to support you. But I really try to like, so how do you feel about like being very intentional about bringing that person back into this conversation? Because I really need you to know that like, yeah, I am there, but this is you all's team effort that I'm coming alongside of, you know, and it doesn't even just have to be the partner, like a parent or whoever that the person is bringing into their birthing space. Like, this is collaborative. Like, we all need to be on the same page about this. So engaging whoever's going to be there is super important to me. Like, absolutely, from the jump, not just when we get in delivery. And so,
Absolutely. Wow. Excellent. So dads, breathe, stay calm, and stay grounded. In so many words, and be supportive
and learn. And be intentional about learning. I mean, not just on Google, not just hearing from other people and their stories, but you intentionally need to be reading. You know, if there's like a class, a lactation or whatever class, like you also go.
Exactly.
Please.
Wow. Awesome. Okay. Next question. Kamira, can you talk about the differences between the birthing environment at home versus in the hospital?
How long we got? No,
oh boy.
This way, right. One of the primary differences between giving birth at home and giving birth in a hospital setting is the level of autonomy that you are naturally afforded, if you will. You 100% are an autonomous being in a hospital setting, yes. Some hospital settings will honor that more than others, you know. In a home birth setting, that's sort of a given. Not always, though. I've had clients that have had their autonomy challenged in the home birth setting as well. So again, it's not always, but that's one of the main differences. Also, of course, like what's accessible to you. When a woman chooses to give birth at home, she's choosing an unmedicated birth. She's more likely wanting an undisturbed, natural, holistic, physiologic birth experience where she's in the comfort of her own home with whoever's there. And she, a lot of times, may have a particular vision of birth, and you know the body is made for it and things like that. So that's that. And she won't have access to certain pain medications and things like that. Also, in a home birth setting, she will either work with a midwife who practices in home birth setting, or she will choose to have a free birth, which means she's giving birth without the presence of a medical professional. So those are options available there. I will say, in my experience, not always, of course, but when women choose a home birth, there's a high level of intention, a high level of study, a high level of practice, a high level of commitment to the journey and the experience, because they know they're going against the norm. They know they're not going to have access to all these things. You can always transfer, yes, and I've seen that, but they kind of know a little bit more what's laid out ahead of them, and I just see like the investment is like there. In a hospital setting, a woman who gives birth in a hospital, she can work with either an obstetrician, OB-GYN, or a midwife. So those are two options available. She will have access to everything she could think of, every type of pain management, interventions that may be necessary or unnecessary, those are there. It's just a different experience. Nurses, it's more of like a assembly line type of thing, whereas more of a factory type approach, whereas the home birth setting is so customized. She's in her space, things like that. And so to have an empowered, confident, amazing experience in hospital is 100% possible. And I've done it, but it takes a lot more. It takes a lot more strategy. It takes a lot more planning. Yes, you got to have your team. And also I have seen that oftentimes, when people choose to give birth in a hospital, it's just like the norm. Like, oh, we just go to the hospital. And so there's not that intention. What hospital? Who is your provider? Right. What are their C-section rates? Did you do any research or did you just go? And some of that choice is because of what's available. Like we were just talking earlier about the birth deserts, especially on the South Side. So some of that is like a systematic issue, but then sometimes it's not. It's just like the assumption that, oh, I just go to the hospital and this is how it goes. And so there's not that planning and that education, and there's so many unhappy surprises a lot of times, not always, that a person can face. So I'm sure y'all got a lot to say about it too.
That was an excellent.
I do say, as somebody who works predominantly with medically complex folks from various different disabilities, and knowing like, hey, what are our intentions and what are we setting up for this labor and delivery? Are we going to research and make sure everything's put in place to, let's say if we want to push to have a home birth, or you know what, some issues may arise that we feel more comfortable with, let's doing it in a safe space, which is a hospital or in close proximity to a hospital. And those are conversations that have to be had very early on. And I think we don't really center that. And I think, especially for me, when I came into birth work, it was not really a conversation, because I could talk to my GP and she'll be like, dang, I didn't know disabled people could have the option of like picking. And like, she's just my general practitioner. She's like, I never put that in context. I'm like, but you also, I'm like, yeah. And she's a Black woman. And I was like, yeah, but we also understand that birthing Black folks are more likely to die in labor and delivery, regardless of socioeconomic standpoint, regardless if she got a PhD or a 6th grade education, they're more likely to die versus a white woman with a high school or a 8th grade education. So I'm like, and it's more daunting when you're medically complex, because the system is already looking at you like,
do you even have a choice? Do you have a choice? But
honestly, we don't want you to have kids anyway. So, and so we have to combat that and be in that space of simply saying like, let's lay it out. And so I've had births where I'll be like, hey, do you want to rent an Airbnb and overhead by Rush because you're in close proximity to Rush, or you're in close proximity to UC? Because again, we're on the South Side. For 2 hospitals on the South Side that have a labor and delivery are UC, University of Chicago, and Roseland. We're not talking about Little Company because that's a suburb. We're just talking about in the city limits. And so I have to put that in mind when I have clients who have sickle cell anemia, when I have clients who have cerebral palsy, I have clients who have multiple disabilities that may impact how they show up in labor and delivery, and if that impacts how they are in labor and delivery. And so those are things that cannot be on a fly by night. Yeah, I'm 8 months pregnant. No, baby, we gotta be having that conversation early, and I mean early. Like, hey, I'm 3 months. Okay, what are you thinking? What is lay out these plans and lay it out clearly, and give them the ability to sit there and say, like, if everything falls through, if I cannot have this at home, if I cannot have it in a safe space that is not a medical facility, let me choose what medical facility I'm doing it at. And have it under my autonomy. And that's one of those conversations I think we have to dig deeper in. Not just as doulas, but as birth workers, period, and across the board.
Absolutely.
You're just basically saying that they need to know that they have options.
Yeah.
I feel like it's always a solution in anything.
It is.
That's my motto. There's always a solution in anything. And it's wonderful that you like giving them options, like, hey, you feeling some type of way about doing it at home, but you can't get a place that's closer. So you're just giving them options. That's good. That's what it's all about.
Okay, next question is for you, Imani. Maybe a little tough, but just,
Yeah.
How do you support parents through loss?
Yeah. So the way I enter into my work is just knowing that people are coming into the birth space with stuff already.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the folks that I work with have experienced loss before, and this may be the first pregnancy that they're able to carry to term, right? So it's about getting the background information, honestly. I mean, because even if it's not a pregnancy loss, like the loss of a grandparent, the loss of a parent can also affect how someone is working through pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because it's a loss of support, I think that's even still,
Yeah.
So, and being conscious about how grief and trauma affects labor, affects health, and being able to provide resources and suggest different healing techniques for folks to have, like when those things come up, because I think pregnancy is really triggering. Even if you haven't experienced a loss, you may have seen someone have to go through infertility, right? And you have survivor's remorse or survivor guilt. And so I think it's just being gentle and listening to listen. And not just saying it's going to be okay. And like when these things come up, make space for them truly and not just push past the moment. And, I think it's also important for birth workers to have like some kind of training to help them be more trauma informed, so that they can make that space and it be a safe space, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's not something we should be taking lightly, because as this person is going through pregnancy, maybe for the second or third time, and this pregnancy might be the only one that they can have, right? Maybe they were going through IUI, IVF, and they can't do it again, right? But they've had previous loss. So there's a lot of different like complexities in that conversation.
Yeah.
And so we have to have the space and the education to be able to be like, okay, so knowing this, like, let's make this special for you, right? Like, let's do a ceremony. Let's get your people involved to help celebrate. And sometimes, like, I'll even have a prenatal session where we're acknowledging the loss and we're talking about that pregnancy, or we're talking about the things that didn't happen, that didn't come to pass, and we're still making space for maybe that baby to like be a guardian angel, whatever is going to be comforting to that person as they transition is what I think we should focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
I had a client that I was hired for September. Her due date was September, and she lost the baby. And like you said, you want to give them the option to be heard. I've been texting her every week just to check in, so she can know that she's loved and cared for, and I'm thinking of her. And it means a lot to them.
Yeah.
We let them be heard. It's not all about us. This is a service that we're doing. And so it's not something, it's something that you got to be natural with. You got to be born with it. This is not something that you just learn at a school. This is just something that you just naturally born to do.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
What you're saying is, I agree. You give her options, but you're making sure she's heard.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times the families get back to work and don't want to be bothered, just get over it. Mourning is not a time limit on it.
Right.
And that person is still in postpartum.
Exactly.
Right.
It's still a birth, and it's still postpartum. And that's why I was saying when Rachel said that includes death, that is something that is inherently a part of this work. Miscarriages happen. I don't even want to call it a miscarriage. Loss happens, and we have to be ready to support people through that. It's a part of the process.
Absolutely.
It's a family thing too. Like you said, the husband, the parents, because like you said, it could be a mother or somebody that passed away. Yeah. And they mourn it because they having a baby, and now they want their mom to be involved, and she's not there.
Yeah.
And so that's a mourning process. Mourning just happens, and it just comes upon us. We all been through it. Where it could be years later, or it could be something that triggers you. And emotionally, people just need to be heard.
Yeah.
It's, outside even the doula thing, it's just a human nature thing. People need to be heard. It's such a mental thing going on with this process. We all have it. We all need to be heard, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that we push past grief a lot.
Yes.
And just to get back to normal. Life is never going to be normal again after loss.
Exactly.
You are living a new life now.
Right.
And so in birth and death are so connected. It's like, this is a new life that it's a birth.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this is a birth of a new person, a new situation, a new path. So like, we think about it like that. Like, we have to support this person in this new journey that they're going on from that loss. And personally, I lost my grandmother, I want to say like 3 or 4 months before I got pregnant. And so one of the ways that I kind of incorporated like into my pregnancy and into my postpartum was like playing music that my grandmother like played when I was younger, acknowledging her, showing my daughter pictures of her, like really incorporating like, honestly, like ancestral stuff into my relationship with my daughter, because I kind of feel like what made sense for me and what resonated with me was like they met. Like it was just too close. I'm like, y'all had to have met each other. Like, and I know you watching over her. So it's stuff like that. Like, and that's cultural too, right? The way that folks view death is different in different cultures. And so I think that's important to ask people too. Like, how do you approach grief? How do you approach spirituality? Because all of this work, I feel like, is inherently spiritual, even if you're not religious. So
you have to embrace it. You have to embrace the mourning and the pain, the happiness. People don't they want to push it down. And to be able to continue with life to become, you want to embrace it.
Especially us, Black women. We have that. I gotta stay strong. I gotta keep going. The bills still gotta get paid.
That's what our ancestors did.
Yeah, but look at the situations that we're in now as a result.
They holding it in. They emotionally unstable.
Women so we have
to. So we need to be able to tame that, embrace it, and embrace it.
Absolutely.
You want to cry? Go ahead and cry. Let it out.
Lay on my shoulder.
Yeah, right.
I got you.
I grew up not crying. I used to cry. I used to just hold it in. Growing up on the west side of Chicago, I didn't see anything under the sun. So I used to just be quiet and I hold it in. But when I was 18, God just tapped me on my shoulder. I felt it. You can talk now. And everybody should have a voice. And I started crying. Do you know I had to hold on to the walls? Because it was affecting my soul. When you don't let it out and cry, it would affect you. And I just kept pushing through. I hold on the walls and I kept holding on to the walls until it eventually I was not able to have to hold on to nothing. And I didn't realize how holding in stuff for decades and years, it will affect your whole body, your limbs and everything. And I tell people, don't be ashamed. It's okay
your body
to just embrace it and just cry and let it go.
So go ahead.
I think it's an interesting road to navigate when you're pregnant, because when we're pregnant, we are trying to be strong, trying to be kind of even, not too depressed, so because we're very conscious of the life within us. And I can personally remember my pregnancy, I have 4 children. I can remember my second one when I was depressed and I couldn't figure out what it was, but I truly believe that I can see, like, that is my more emotional child, and I do think there's a correlation. And then I remember, similar to you, I had lost my mom and then I got pregnant a few months later. And so I went the whole pregnancy just trying to be straight, trying like, okay, I'll have my time to grieve after. And that was an interesting journey as well, because I'm like, okay, let me try and just, push it down and just be as optimistic as I can, make sure the baby's good and all of that. And it's a really tricky one when you're pregnant, because there is you can go too far in either direction. And I think that I don't think I really had the tools to properly grieve. Like, okay, where's the balance where you can kind of grieve while you're pregnant, but don't go too far off the deep end? I don't know that I really had the tools. So I kind of just like, okay, well, let me just keep going. I went super hard with work and I made some progress with things, but I didn't really face that until after. Yeah. So it's a tricky one. Grief is definitely tricky.
Yeah.
And movement, I would assume would also be helpful.
It is. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And dance. That's also ancestral for us. Is moving our bodies through emotions. And so that also plays a part in labor.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing, your losses and how that affected you through your pregnancy. Because it's nothing to be ashamed of. You know, we all got a beginning and an end. So, the more we talk about it and the more we normalize it, we can help other mothers who are experiencing it get through it, So thank you guys. Miss Rachel, what is reproductive justice?
Well, for me, reproductive justice means to have the autonomy to make those decisions, be it to bring forth children and to not. And I think we don't have a conversation about that a lot. And when we talk about reproductive justice, I think we look at it under a white lens and a heavily white-centered lens instead of looking at it from a lens of people who have come through the transatlantic slave trade, understanding that there's trauma stored within within us that may not be from our mothers, but maybe from our foremothers and our forefathers. And so having that conversation means to really delve deep. We talk about trauma, we talk about all of that, but don't understand that it carries over. And, doing the work requires actually doing some healing work and internal healing work.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
It does. And when we talk about it, we can sit there and talk about Roe versus Wade, or we can talk about the maternal health crisis and the infant mortality crisis that is happening within the Black community. But to talk about reproductive means to sit there and say, I have the autonomy to make decisions for what I want to do in labor delivery. That means also having that reproductive justice conversation when it refers to disabled people. Because unfortunately, what we don't understand is in the state of Illinois, if a disabled person was to go under state guardianship and the state takes guardianship of a disabled person, that they lose the autonomy to make their decisions if they want to keep their reproductive system or not. That they can literally go be sterilized. And those are things that we do not have a conversation about. And I say it as someone who has a disability. I have cerebral palsy. And on state books, I am technically intellectually disabled. And so if I was to go under state care, I can lose my autonomy. And we don't engage in those conversations enough of how the state apparatus can take away someone's agency, be it in education, in birth, and in reproductive justice. Because we talk so big and don't understand the impacts that happens communally. We'll talk about Fannie Lou Hamer and the Mississippi appendectomies. That is reproductive justice of telling someone, hey, I'm going in for one thing and coming back out and now knowing that you heard word of mouth that you lost your autonomy for reproductive. And we don't have those. We sit there and say that those things are the past, but they're very much current. That reproductive justice not only affects birthing folks, but it actually affects the folks behind them. And so it's a very deep conversation I think we need to delve into, but the capacity of folks.
Can you explain to our audience, for those that may not know, what the Mississippi appendectomy is?
So a Mississippi appendectomy, what they called down south, specifically in Mississippi, was that they were doing forced sterilizations of Black women and what they considered folks of low intellect. That is a reproductive issue. Sitting up there saying that we feel that you are not intellectually capable of having children. We feel that as Black people that you are undeserving of children. So we're going to take your reproductive rights away. And that is largely what really a state guardianship may look like for folks. It's now state guardianship where they can have the autonomy and someone in the state or your guardian can make the decision for you that, hey, we feel that they are not worthy of being a parent. So let me take that away. And so when we talk about Mississippi appendectomies, that is what it is. Now we call it, it's called sterilization, but they call it the Mississippi appendectomy. And it's happened up until the 70s, actually.
Wow.
When we talk about reproductive health, we also talk about, birth control and how they were using it on Puerto Rican women, how, we talk about even Depo. We can have a whole conversation about even like how birth control has operated in reproductive care and reproductive justice. They use Depo, for instance, for sex offenders. And they call it medical castration. So when we talk about reproductive justice, it's a bigger thing than like just what it looks like in birth.
That sounds like a conversation for a whole nother.
Yeah, it is.
That's a conversation for a whole nother interview. But thank you so much for sharing your personal story and experience and breaking that down for us, because people need to hear it. We don't know, So I'm going to switch gears a little bit because that was heavy. Yeah. All of that was very heavy. Rosalina, this question is for you. What should we not say to pregnant people or people who just had a baby? What should we not say?
To broaden their horizon, just not be judgmental.
Okay.
So not be judgmental on any words you may say to them or not say. You have to be open-minded on the words that you talk to them about, because they're very sensitive about what you may say. Maybe, you look a little heavy today. That's a no-no.
That's a no-no, period. Don't comment on my side.
You should not be making a comment, or you should not say, hey, I think you should breastfeed instead of doing a bottle. No, you should have no personal judgment or opinion.
Absolutely.
The big part is not being non-judgmental. Coming into their home, they might don't live the same way we live. So they might don't clean the same way we clean. So you can't be, your expression is very important. I know how to, you got to just put a smile on, a joy in your heart, and you may see something where they might be a hoarder. I've been in hoarders, and they hoard Mickey Mouse stuff, Walt Disney stuff, bathrooms, like outhouses, but you can't. One another thing is, it's not asking them, what do you need me to do? As a doula, we already should be able to scope and see what's needed in a household. Biggest thing is not being non-judgmental. I think that's so important because they're such in a sensitive situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think we all have many stories about not being judgmental. You can't give no personal opinion. Doulas don't have no medical advice. We're just there emotionally to support them, to be able to help them prepare, to show them ways they can handle taking care of their kid and feeding and doing household at the, at a level where when I leave, you should be, I feel like you're good. I gave you all the tools to show you that you can do it all. You just pace yourself. My favorite line is one day at a time. Don't worry about tomorrow or what's got to be done tomorrow or next week. Just focus on today. Whatever you need to do today, just be God woke you up this morning, and just be thankful and focus on the day. And don't worry about what tomorrow has even came to. So the biggest word is just non-judgmental. I think it's very important with the labor and when they pregnant, and because they do be having their eyes on us. They be making sure they probably watching our expressions, how we move, because people know how they living. So, and yeah, my biggest thing is not to be non-judgmental and just to support.
Absolutely. Anybody else want to add? You look. What should you not say? What should you not say to a pregnant mom or someone who just had a baby?
This is what I would do.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
This is what I would do.
A lot of eyes.
Yeah, it's not about you. It's not about you. And so I agree with you about like you are just there to be a support. I tell a lot of people when they're doing postpartum to really protect their peace and boundaries. So if you know someone is constantly trying you and your family, and they are going to try to enter your space, you need to have that boundary put up. You need to talk to your people who are going to be supporting you to through postpartum to let them know like, no, this is not what we're doing. Just having parameters around you and your baby.
Absolutely.
But that starts with pregnancy, right? And so, I don't know. I think it's also an advocacy thing. So
it is. Absolutely. It is.
Yeah.
I'll also add, don't trauma dump. Like there's a lot of unsolicited advice, and people just think they need to tell all their little horror stories. You know, when a mom is pregnant, they'd be like, "Oh my gosh! Like, do you really hear what you're saying right now? Why are you saying this to her?" So please don't do that. Don't project. I understand a lot of it. Oftentimes comes from a place of love and trying to help. You know, like I have the experience, so I'm trying to impart something on you to maybe help you or whatever. But a lot of times it ends up being projecting. Which is a no-no.
Absolutely.
They don't need to hear a bunch of trauma stories, you know. They don't need somebody telling you should do this, you need to do that. Like, hear them out. We can make recommendations. I think there's value, and that is, as a people, we learn from each other. So I am not of the mind that nobody can give guidance and advice during pregnancy and postpartum or suggestions. Like that's what we do as doulas, right? And the family can do that too. But we first need to understand where they're coming from, what their goals are, what their individual circumstances and situation is. And then we have the context to then be able to help make suggestions and whatnot. So don't just come in with like your own agenda. So like, you should do this, you know, don't do that.
Like back on like, even with like trauma, like we come into the space, especially if you've had pregnancy loss or you've had infant loss. Like I've had clients who would be like, family would be like, you gonna do something better this time? And part of me is like, you also should get popped in the head for that. But seriously, like those are things like, again, the trauma and like addressing that and like how you come off, and you know, we're talking about birth, and then we have to deal with the body dysmorphia because then they're looking at social media and it's like, well, this girl done snapped back. It's like, and I'll be like, girl, if you sit down, please sit down, please sit down.
TikTok,
I'm like, it's okay that you went and ordered takeout for the last 3 weeks. It's okay that the laundry
slept in 3 weeks.
It's okay that the laundry that piled up and you asking for help. So it's okay to have that where you listen to your grandma and them. They talking about, well, your grandma also had her aunties, her mama, and her grandma helping her.
That
like, let's not get in this space of simply saying, well, you had a village, and we are trying to replicate that village, and we need to pull that back, and so then bring that back. Instead of saying like birthing is not something that has happened in a silo. It's not an individual thing. It's an individual giving birth. But that whole component is a collective work.
Absolutely.
And that has to be reflected, not just at the baby shower.
That's right.
But it got to be reflected during that pregnancy, that postpartum, and it really has to be reflected in that postpartum.
Heavy.
Like to realize the signs of postpartum depression and simply saying, well, I wasn't depressed. You may have been, but I don't know your story.
Right.
You may have been. So let's not pass that level of judgment down. Instead of saying like, and again, we are in a space with Black folks. We've seen it. Girl, postpartum depression. Girl, that's some white woman shit. We done all heard it. We done all dealt with it. And we're just like, no, baby. It's a real thing. You've seen it. You've seen it in different variations, and maybe not in the full scale of, you know, the person who you're dealing with, your sister, your auntie, you've seen it. but how do we address it as collective and a family unit and a village to make sure that the birthing parents are right, the parent who is not the birthing parent, and that baby's all right, because collectively it's going to affect everybody.
Yeah,
and we can't walk into a space of I, and we have to walk into a space as we as a collective of making sure that's done.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Wow.
Can I add one more thing?
Absolutely.
I'm sitting here listening
come on
Rachel.
with it.
When are you gonna try again, and when you having another baby?
Oh, Jesus.
Or are you done? Or are you done too?
Please. Oh God, please.
I'm getting stitched up right now, and you're asking me when I'm gonna do it again.
The way that Black folks are experiencing trauma in birth, and I'm speaking for myself. My birth was so traumatic. Why are you asking me when I'm going to have a baby? I almost didn't make it out of this. Please.
Yeah.
And also, are you paying for my postpartum doula? Do you have second baby money?
Right.
Because I don't.
Right.
You don't know this person's like economic situation. You don't know if birth left them disabled. You know what I mean? And you're not offering other resources to support, to come up behind second baby, third baby situations. Like if this person just experienced loss, that is so insensitive. Please don't say that to them. And don't ask nobody, are they pregnant?
Too.
Because if people are dealing with infertility, if they want to remain childless, that is none of your business. What people do with their bodies is none of your business. And I think that is something culturally that we have got to like really get down pat. Like if I did not share with you that I am trying to conceive, that I am currently pregnant, please do not ask, because you don't know what people are going through. And I know it's well-meaning. It can come off well-meaning, but just please respect people's space. Don't assume because they gain weight that they're pregnant. You know, just don't. Just leave that off the table. Have another discussion. Let's talk about something else.
Paul's is having an event this weekend. You want to adopt a puppy.
Right. Literally. Like anything else we can talk about.
We have to do a lot of cultural breaking cycles. And I think this doula service is going to push us through that, because culturally people are not emotional supporting. And they just doing a cycle with that. When you gonna have another baby? When you too young to have a. I was a teenage pregnancy, and my grandmother, born in 30s, her mentality was, you gonna have. She was just like to me on the phone after I had my baby, was like, you gonna have 50 babies and be on public aid all your life. So that was at 17.
You speak into the space.
And I took it as, okay, I don't want to be that statistic. So it took me 20-some years to have a child. Because of that mentality of, I knew that was sitting back in my head because of her cultural or way she was brought up. So the things that we hear can affect our livelihood, and we have to break cycles where we have to renew our mind and think a new way. People don't realize that you could do that in a blink of an eye. Things can change in a blink of an eye. So that's something that I have taught myself to do, not letting people ways change me. And that's so important on this earth, not let people ways change you, because if you do, you'll be all over the place. You wouldn't even know who you are.
Absolutely.
So that emotional support that people need to have is so important, and it's lightly with people. People are so, that I word, that's what everybody's about. So selfish. I is a selfish word. And you got to be a we thing. So.
Okay, last question. This has been such an enlightening conversation. I have one last question, and this question is for you, Rachel. If you can't afford a doula, what ways can you advocate for yourself leading up to and during delivery?
So, ironically, there is an organization that actually does provide doula services for folks who cannot pay. Chicago Volunteer Doulas does that. They also are trained Chicago Volunteer. I have the esteemed pleasure to actually serve on their board. We are also training doulas. We're training women in Logan Prison to be doulas, to advocate during labor and delivery in prison and in county. And so there are programs. I know there are doulas who also do bartering systems. There are ways to be able to get the services that are needed. I've had clients who be like, yo, I can't pay for you, but I get $600 worth of food stamps. Do what is accessible to you. But again, like you were saying, having that partner there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes I love it because they will buck up when it needs to. They will turn up for their partner. And that is critical because sometimes, again, the grandmas can kind of be a pushover. And sometimes those partners are necessary. But actually staying your ground. There are organizations, and Chicago Volunteer Doulas is one of those that does citywide and countywide. And that's, and they put the power in labor and delivery back in the hands of the people. But there are a multitude of doulas who I know have barter systems, who will sit there and tell a client 4 months in, hey, you can't afford it, put it on your registry. Put it on your registry.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I got a gift certificate.
Good.
Put it on your registry. Put it where, hey, you may not need me for labor and delivery, or you just need me specifically for labor and delivery, or you need me for postpartum. Sometimes, labor and delivery comes and goes, but that postpartum is also deeply necessary. It's clients where I may show up for labor and delivery who cannot afford me for postpartum. And I've literally sat up there and was like, all right, I'm going to cook you meals. I'm going to drop it off. I ain't going to say nothing.
Yeah.
Wow.
How you doing? And so those we need to build that community.
Absolutely.
Where regardless of socioeconomic standpoint, that you have the space and the autonomy to advocate for yourself. But if you don't, hey, bring a line.
Absolutely.
And folks will step in.
Yeah.
Chicago Volunteer
Doulas.
Chicago Volunteer Doulas. Chicago Volunteer Doulas is an organization. Rachel is on the board. If you cannot afford doula services,
Right.
is there a website?
ChicagoVolunteerDoulas.org.
ChicagoVolunteerDoulas.org. Write it down.
They have we have an IG, we have a Facebook, CBD. We exist, and right now we're right now in the process of training 100 new doulas to be covered under the Medicaid expansion, and we're training Black men to be doulas in that space.
Good.
And I think that work is critical, and we have to really again put it back in the hands of the people and make it where we're stewards of our own labor and deliveries, and that takes work.
Yeah.
The work is not done, people, but I do have to close out this interview, sadly. But before we go, I want to let you ladies know that these flowers on the table are for you.
Oh, so nice.
We want to give you your flowers while you can still smell them.
Yes.
We want to honor you and acknowledge the work that you are doing for your community. It's so selfless. And it's so important and it's so needed. So these are for you. We got some more little things for you as well. But we just
very sweet. Thank you.
We just appreciate you all so much for sharing your knowledge, sharing your personal experiences, because that's something, that people don't do. So thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you to our audience for tuning in. And we will have more content from these ladies and from other birth workers coming up for you. So tune in and like our Instagram page, our Facebook page, and tune in to the next episode of Thrive Alive.